Let's hello and welcome to KoiCast. I am Koi Jandro, a Bostonian who loves pop culture, comic books, and most people. I am joined as ever by the effervescent, the ever lovely, the ebullient, that's not a word, Jake Lloyd Bacon.
What did you think it meant? The word you just
I
made
thought
up.
it meant like another, like when you're effervescent, there's a sparkle. Ebullient being like someone who's got a lot of energy, like someone that's emitting a lot of like radiant energy, like.
All right.
To
well,
emulate, but ebullient is now a descriptor.
Compared to you last week when we were supposed to record, yes, I am far more ebullient than you were.
Dude, that was arguably the sickest I've been, other than when I got COVID 4 years ago in the last 5 years. That was Con-Crud
so
7.0.
We're a week late, but we're going to be back to our every other week schedule starting this week because Koi went to a con and a bunch of nerds made him sick.
Very ill. I did take, by the end of the run, I took 4 negative COVID tests. So it was Con-Crud, not a Florida dose of the Rona.
It was just regular Florida sick, not special Florida sick.
I just got real Florida. No disrespect to the people of Florida. I was not biomechanically engineered to handle your bugs.
I would like to say disrespect to those from Florida, yes.
Okay, this is where we differ. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna keep even the ones that carry guns in public on my good side.
I have family there. And I still feel like any self-respecting person would have left by now.
It's a lot. Orlando, a beautiful place to visit. It's a lot.
Sure.
I do miss, in fact,
I miss Megacon. It's a real fun con. It was always like, I always liked it when I lived there going to that con because it felt like mini Comic-Con, where it was like all of the things that you get at Comic-Con, but you can breathe. Well, not you, but most people could breathe. You could, it was easier to walk the floor. It was fun. It just felt like a more relaxed version of the big con.
And what I hear, we cleared 200,000 this time. So this was bigger than New York Comic-Con. So it's catching up to almost not able to breathe. And in my case, by Monday, not breathing. That said, I do think other than San Diego Comic-Con, like the last 2 years where I've had a lot of career successes, I think this is my favorite con of my professional life. This was such a special, I don't know, it felt like a kind of a culmination of everything I've been working for because it was so many throwbacks.
Okay.
Like Megacon isn't just the current pop culture, it's like I did the Princess Bride panel.
Right, yeah.
I had the Entourage reunion. And like the Entourage guys have never done a con together ever. So it was the first time in 8 years they've been in a room. And Princess Bride, Robin Wright had never done a con. And that blew my mind because of Wonder Woman and everything else she's done. So it was like a really cool mix of nostalgia and throwbacks with, which is crazy that Entourage is now. But Entourage, like season 1 debuted 20 years ago, 2004.
Wow.
Oh, good God. And then My Name Is Earl, Jamie Presley had never done a panel with Ethan and Jason, so it was a lot of really cool one-of-one throwbacks, but then also Tom Hiddleston.
It wasn't firsts for new crap that you were promoting that you were like, everybody go see this crappy movie that's Sony's releasing this week. Instead, it was like, hey, you know that thing that we all love and that is tried
we've already
and
loved
true?
for 20 years? Look at the celebration of.
Yeah,
and there's also some new, like Tom Hiddleston, that's like, obviously, I was the first panel he did after Loki at all.
Right.
So I got to have the first really in-depth talk of season 2. Season 2. And they had me vet my questions. Obviously, Marvel had to approve my questions. His team had to approve.
That's funny.
But it allowed for a really beautiful organic conversation because I think he knew to trust that it wasn't going to be surface level.
Right, sure.
And then we talked for about 5 minutes before the panel and kind of got in a rhythm of like conversation like I like to do, like not like a pre-interview, but just to like, how do you like discussing?
This is how I sound. This is how you sound. This is how we sound together.
Yeah, this is our flow. Let's like bring this now comfortably on stage. Not like, hey, nice to meet you. And then it was one of my most, I don't know, it was one of the most beautifully organic, deep conversations. Sometimes you can have a great organic conversation that's surface level and fun, or you can have a really deep conversation, but it's not organic. It feels like we have to be deep. This felt like we fell into a rhythm of, you and I see art the same.
Right.
Let's not sugarcoat it. Let's talk about how this emotionally resonates. And the audience ate it up in a way that I've always been worried they wouldn't. I really worry about, attention spans and how much depth people want out of their conversations.
I think the people who are like paying to go to Florida for MegaCon are like
waiting in line 7 hours.
They're the diehards. The San Diego people, it's all headlines. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like You were with the diehards there, so I think you had a little bit more room. So I can imagine that it's a little bit more easily digestible for a crowd like that.
It was the perfect demo. Like I'm really happy. Florida was really special. Not only, like I said, those 3 reunion panels, Entourage, I'm a huge film bro, like in both senses. Like I'm a film nerd and a bro. So that show really hit me at the right time and spot. And it was really special because I'm usually good at separating actor from role. And I was in their case. All those guys were, it was Kevin Dillon, not drama. But it was really funny. There was a moment where we're backstage and the back of a con is these weird voids of gray. If you've never been in the back of a con, It's dark. That goes on forever. It's kind of Uncanny Valley-ish. Like, Jake, the best way to, I think, describe is like, it looks like what I think people that think the moon landing was, like that fake, weird, like conspiratorial, dark, long alleyway.
Sure.
And used golf carts to get around. And so the 4 actors from Entourage turned the corner in these golf carts, and immediately my brain was like, oh shit, I'm in an episode of Entourage. It wasn't, I'm seeing 4 actors arrive. Since they were together, my brain only has them as patterned together if it's the show.
Sure.
So it was this really weird moment where I wasn't coy doing a panel. I was in an episode of Entourage where the guys go to Comic-Con. And it stayed surreal because once we were on stage, the stories felt like we were doing like a reunion episode. And we fell into an equally beautiful rhythm of, I knew, like, Adrian Grenier and I have a bunch of mutual friends. Kevin Connolly and I have a few mutual friends. So backstage, we talked about, like, those things. That made us really comfy. So once we were on stage, it felt like 4 close friends and their one buddy that joined them for dinner. Like, that weird, like, and the guy that knows them, but not great. And so that became a really wonderful way to talk about, like, favorite moments, favorite episodes. Like, I know enough about the show to recite episode numbers. Like, I was pulling, like, some deep enough cuts. And the audience was so happy just to see them. We weren't really worried about making them happy because they were just glowing up at the guy there. So it was really like easy.
There's no ulterior motive of needing to promote a thing.
Yeah, or like avoid scoops. Like it's also the other part of my job is like, what do we not talk about? This was like, let's talk about everything.
Yeah. So,
and they were also very like, they're dads now. All 4 of them have kids. And there was a moment where someone was clearly trying to get like a soundbite or like a very pre-Me Too commentary out of them, asking about like, who do you think had the best chemistry, with all the girls? Like it was something like he was trying to get away with saying something
like
douchey.
An audience member, you mean?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, an audience fan question. A fan was asking something clearly trying to get, an old school, early 2000s answer. And the guys were like, I really feel like one of the most beautiful things about the show is that the women really helped raise us and make us better. And like, then we got into the talk of like all the strong women on the show, like Carla Gugino and Emmanuel Chirqui and these moments. And I was like, oh, I love this backfire so much because that's like a 5% of the audience that we've kind of outgrown as a show. And it's really cool that like we got a little spotlight of like, this isn't what the panel was going to be. And it never was. And they also got to spotlight the women as 4 dudes on a panel about a show of dudes. And it kind of like, even the fan portion went in a way that felt scripted because of the way we were able to answer stuff that wasn't planned because we were avoiding, any sort of controversy. So I really love that. And then My Name Is Earl. Did you watch that growing up?
That I didn't see Entourage. Could give 2 shits. I was looking at all the things that you did, and I was like, the only one that I'm like legitimately like heart like palpable jealousy is it's one of my all-time favorite shows. Like it is top tier. I think it's one of the best of the best. I think it's the most underrated as far as like TV history and the stories it told, how progressive it was for its era, the format itself. I feel like it sits in both worlds as like Strangers with Candy and Scrubs and Friends. Like it's there's so many things about it. It's the fucking best. It's one of the best shows ever. Yeah.
I assumed, but I didn't want to assume all the way. But it seems like your exact shit.
One of my all-time favorites.
So they'd never done a panel together ever. And Jamie had only done 2 cons ever. And one of them was like Paley Fest or something where they were like presenting a trailer where it wasn't really a panel. So we had a really, really unique panel because it wasn't something that was... I knew what the audience would want because I'm a huge fan, but there also wasn't that staleness of we do this so often. It feels like I'm just going to answer that zing, zing, zing.
And they are like they already know all the answers because they've said them a million times.
It had the opposite where we actually went into what the final season was going to be, and Ethan Suplee telling me the original finale. And then because we were in that fun, creative, opening up doorways from 10 years ago space, we ended up like writing episodes on stage.
That's fun.
So it became like a really fun what if / like improv exercise where we wrote a 3-episode arc where what would Joy's list be? And we came up with the idea that Joy's list would be the people that have wronged her. She just wouldn't understand the concept of karma.
It's the people that she feels owe her something.
Yeah, so we went through like a 3-episode arc of her coming to the conclusion that there could at least be neutral. She'd never accept that she owed anyone anything, but like her list would be the opposite of what the show was.
That's funny.
And the original finale was one of the people on Earl's list gets righted, and in doing so, he finds out they have a list and that he's inspired hundreds of people to make their own list, and that his positive karma has exponentially increased. And that was the original ending of the show, was this moment of closure for Earl. And I was like, that's so beautiful. Like, what a moment. We talked about it for a while. And then Ethan Suplee, like, he's lost 150 pounds. Like, he looks like a new man. We talked about
that movie with Channing Tatum and the dog, where he's like a military officer. When I saw the trailer for that, I was like, look at this fucking dude. Yeah.
He's a beast, dude. So we talked about how like his casting would be different nowadays and what that version of Hickey would be doing. And it was just really special because you could tell it was all stuff they've never talked publicly about before, or it's been on like a 30-second clip of a podcast.
They've talked about it. Exactly. They've talked about it individually on podcasts and all that kind of shit. I feel like Ethan does a lot of stuff.
I've heard Ethan talk about a few of the things.
Yeah.
And they kept referring to Ethan as the like encyclopedia of the show because clearly he's the one that stayed. He's doing more pods, so it's fresher for him.
Yeah.
And it's more, so it was really cool to see also Ethan kind of get some spotlight because obviously he doesn't in most of his work. So it's cool to have the panel be like referring to Ethan, like as the historian for Earl. It was so cool, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. And that, like, what a fun time just to be with them together.
And the three of them, and the fact that Jason, so I did Jason's first strike panel. I think we talked about it and how nervous I was. Yeah. So he didn't like want to. He didn't want to do a panel that would disappoint fans, and he thanked me at length that I knew his work enough that we were able to talk skateboarding and shoes and photography, and he literally pulled me aside at his booth the next day and was like, hey, man, I really wanted to cancel. Like, I didn't want to cancel because of the fans, but I wanted to cancel because I didn't know that could be a panel. Like, I didn't think anyone would want to talk about that stuff. So he was overjoyed, and I was like, I gave him a moment that he'll remember this weekend. Like, I didn't think anything of it. I thought, like, oh, here's relief for a hero of mine. What a gift I can give him.
Right.
And then to see him get off the golf cart and to like make eye contact and be like, was as a Mallrats fan to have him not only recognize me, but to be a source of relief. Like, oh, you're hosting this. Right. So it was really special that
I know
that
him.
moment. Yeah, exactly. Like I got to be that. And the comfort that gave the other two, because I'd never met Ethan or Jamie.
Sure.
But once they saw Jason and I's familiarity, it became immediate lockstep. Like, oh, let's hang out. So like you're saying, like just the hang, it was so cool because that one panel that I was so like, man, I got to do this during a strike. The thing I've wanted to do my whole career, I got to do during a strike, suddenly became like a secret aces where it's like, and now this panel's twice as good because I did my job.
Right.
So it was really special that I made Jason's life better and it was remembered for 6 months. Like that was a while ago now. And then the hang was crazy because I don't know their writing procedure and like how they riff off each other, but they were so good at including me like a guest star. Like I felt like someone that came on to set and they were like, come on, man, this is Earl. And so I've never had that. I've never joined a show, even like metaphorically.
Right. Yeah. I wonder what Steeples, what's his name? Crabman. I wonder what he's up to. Cause I feel like that's a missing link there on that panel.
He got a typecast. I actually looked into it because I was wondering if I was doing the research to make sure there was no bad blood before I brought him up.
Right.
Crabman basically got typecast so hardcore that he kept getting like roles and commercials as Blank Man,
right? Yes.
And basically just got out of acting. He's just like
I saw him not that long ago. He did a short with a gentleman that I know, and I remember seeing the ad for it and being like, "Oh, I thought it was a TV show," because it looked like a TV show ad, and I was so excited. And then I realized, oh, it's like a short film that was like playing at like the Burbank Film Festival or something like that. But I don't think he like completely quit acting, did he?
No, I don't think he quit. I think he's just, it's not a focus. Right. Like his Instagram is very much like, I was Crabman. Like it seems very like, I was that guy. And then Princess Bride, dude, holy crap, man.
That's
like
insane.
I know you and I've talked about Princess Bride, and I think we both like, regarded it as very important to our foundational what movies can be. But that was really special because they've all never done a panel together. I didn't realize that Chris Sarandon was 81 which is, whoa. Wallace Shawn's obviously up there.
Right.
But what was so insane was Cary Elwes is a movie star in a way I don't see a lot of people that do con appearances carry themselves as.
Right.
Like Tom Hiddleston's a movie star, but he's the current guy.
Yeah.
Like because he's revered as Loki.
It's because
so it's more like.
But it's also because we live in a social media age where we feel over connected. The reason why there are no movie people ask like, oh, why are there no more huge stars like there used to be? And I'm like, because there's no mystery anymore.
We know them too well.
There's no mystery. We see them on social media. They're in every goddamn talk show, doing every comedy bit. They're singing in cars and doing karaoke. Like there's so much exposure to all of these people that there's no mystery. I feel like Cary Elwes, there's still this mystery. When he walks into a room, it's still just the character. It's not the character plus the Graham Norton appearances and this appearances. And it's like, it's not this incessant, constant, familiarity.
Yeah, there's a bombardment of like, me.
Yeah.
Like, and instead it's like,
but with him, I'm just like, that's a fucking Dread Pirate right there.
Dude, he came out on stage and I do this a lot. I so enjoyed the moment where I'm on stage and I got to be like, oh, like there was a little bit of like a twinkle and I had just been talking to him.
But it's also
it was
like
the stage him.
It's also just like, you're with the audience going like, wait, look, he's actually coming to come over here and talk to us. It's
like he's going to sit in this chair right next to me.
You're at a bar and he's like, wait, he's really coming over here. Yeah.
We earned this. And it was funny because we were talking backstage, and backstage it's a way more comfortable environment. So I didn't get that. And I was like, oh, cool, Cary Elwes. But as soon as, like you said, him coming out on stage, I got to be part of the audience. And then when he sat down, we had this really special panel where he asked, let's not talk about anything but Princess Bride. And I've never had to be bad cop to the audience. I've always been able to be like, jokes. And like a bunch of fan questions were like a Star Trek question for Wallace Shawn. And I was like, guys, I made it really clear. We're just doing Princess Bride. But the moments when I had to be like, hey, I'm sorry, can't ask that question. The pride of Cary Elwes beaming over at me of like, thanks for not making me the bad guy, felt so worth being bad cop that I was like, I just made his day a little easier. Ah, yes, hosting. And it was such a funny, I've never had that. I've never been like, haha, I'm on your team. And so we were talking about iconography and the importance of maintaining the integrity. And I was like, I never want to see a remake of this because it's the Princess Bride, not a Princess Bride. And how we were talking about like the imagery of certain sets. And I was like, I did a Once Upon a Deadpool press day where they rebuilt the bedroom and I interviewed Fred Savage from bed. Like I literally met the version of the movie him, and it was such a funny bit. And they were like, oh, that's delightful, blah, blah, blah. And we had this really fun talk. And then I was like, you guys are not like James Bond or Spider-Man or Batman. You're the only Dread Pirate Roberts and you're the only Princess Buttercup. What's it like to see people dress as effectively you for Halloween? Like I've been the Dread Pirate Roberts. And then at one point, so as soon as I finished that sentence, I'm sitting next to Cary. He puts his hand on my shoulder, looks me directly in the eyes, and he went, you, sir, would make an excellent Dread Pirate Roberts Coy. I totally see it. And I literally, my soul left my body. There's no video of this panel, and I'm so glad there's not. Because
we're talking about, that's on, we saw that.
I tweeted it.
Yeah. Oh, why do I remember seeing it?
Because his voice is so clear. I wrote it with an image.
I probably read it and assumed that you.
Yeah, you can hear his voice in it because he speaks because he's Cary Elwes.
Yeah.
So that video, I so rarely I feel like have a total shook moment. But the man is Cary Elwes, and those baby blues looking into your soul and telling, I feel like I got knighted. I became the Dread Pirate Roberts for one beautiful moment. And it was really special. We had this great connection. And then at the end of the panel, they wanted no video, no photos. But he asked for a group shot, Cary did.
Right.
So he gave his phone to his handler. And then so Cary got a photo of all of us. And then the rest of the panel, I'm like, I want that photo. This is so special. And so his Cary at the end was like, hey, I want to make sure I get your number. I want to make sure I get this to you. But it wasn't sending backstage because we're at Megacon. So I went to his handler at the end of the weekend, and he pulled me into his booth. He's got one of those booths that they black out, so he's not getting bombarded at all times.
Yeah, of course.
And I got these 5 or 7 minutes just talking with Cary. And he's like, you are so good at what you do. Why do you do this? Why do you love this? And I was like, you guys gave us years of joy. The least I can do is do my research for hours and give you some back by not asking the same questions.
Right.
And I really appreciate what you've done. This is my way of giving just some back. And he was just so taken with oh, someone cares. I'm used to like hundreds of people caring, but like someone cares one-to-one.
Right.
So we literally sat down and talked about art. And I was like, this is worth more than any money a con could ever pay me. I'm talking about what art means to me and Carrie Elways in a little booth. And I was like, this is why this isn't Comic-Con San Diego. This is unique to this type of format. So those moments happened a lot. Like between the reunion and
they're also not booked for 7 other things that day.
Yeah, he's signing and he's got one panel.
Right. Versus like, being ushered away. Or
Tom was everywhere, but
it's another nice thing. Yeah, I was gonna say with somebody who's not actively making new shit, is it's not like, well, he's got to be back in fucking New York tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and Tom literally flew to London out of Florida.
Yep,
and like, whoo. And then so on the flight there, I was Christopher Lloyd was the seat in front of me, and Leah Thompson. And later on, when we got there, like I saw them join Biff and everything on the runway, and I was like, that's just cool to witness. But there was definitely a moment of like, and this is so cheesy, but I'll own it. When we got on the plane and I saw Christopher Lloyd, I put on Huey Lewis in the News for the whole flight, just in case when we hit 88 miles per hour, went back in time. I had a total fanboy moment. But then on the flight back, it was Ewan McGregor and Mary Elizabeth Winstead and their kids were in the very front row. And so they were like running down the aisleway because their kids were getting stir crazy. And it was such a cute moment to see them not be stuck as movie stars because not a single person bothered them. They got to be a mom and dad.
Sure.
And I also think that's pretty unique to Megacon because there wasn't the San Diego like harassing these people. Like they wanted to be parents and no one on the flight bothered them while they were being parents. And I've never seen that on a flight with like that level of celebrity. To see like Mary Elizabeth Winstead get to chase her kids around was like, oh, that's so nice and relieving.
I feel like that's just airplanes though, personally.
I've seen people get harassed like to the point where they've had to ask security to sit next to them on airplanes. Like I've seen.
Interesting. I just feel like,
it's just celebrity culture is pretty gross.
Yeah. But I also just don't feel like, I feel like if anything, it's the opposite because I feel like the people flying in and out of Megacon would be the people who would be like, oh, I really need, do you know what I mean? Like,
I didn't get to talk to you about that thing.
Right. Yeah. Where I feel like that might just be, and maybe it's because it was an LA flight and everybody on the plane.
That might be.
Everybody on the
home.
plane.
That flight was just crew.
Everybody on the plane is, works in the industry and they hate fucking celebrities.
You're like, oh God, sit down with your children.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was special, man.
Stop trying to get
like,
everybody to look at you. We get it.
You're very attractive people. Stop running it around the plane. Also on the comic side, Arthur Adams and Jeff Loeb panel was really cool.
That's fun.
I didn't realize Jeff Loeb. It didn't connect to me. I didn't realize Jeff Loeb of The Long Halloween and everything.
Yeah,
was Teen Wolf's Jeff Loeb.
I don't think I knew that either.
The guy that wrote Teen Wolf and Commando, like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Commando and Teen Wolf, is the same Jeff Loeb of Marvel Netflix and of Batman Long Halloween and Spider-Man Blue. Isn't that insane?
Oh, also he's so much older than I thought he was, which would make sense that he's that guy. Because by the way, I don't know, like when I think of Loeb and Sale, I don't picture people. I don't know what they look like.
It's the art.
But I do imagine people who are in their 50s.
And yeah, dude's like 70 because Teen Wolf.
Wow.
So it was amazing because no one connects them to that. I didn't until I was doing my research. And then there was a ton of Teen Wolf there because Michael J. Fox was there. So Jeff Loeb got to like take photos with tons of Teen Wolves. And he's like, no one even knows why this is so special to me. And I was like, that is so unique.
Wow.
That was one of my favorite moments was like Jeff Loeb getting flowers for something from 40 years ago that no one would even think of as his.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Dude, Teen Wolf. So I got to talk with him about that. Arthur Adams about his art style and his like wonderful comic sensibility, like the way he's evolved and not had the style change him. Like through the decades, his style hasn't been influenced by the decade changes. He's always been Arthur Adams, which I really respect because a lot of artists change their style to what's popular in comics.
Right.
And then talking to Jeff Loeb about, developing the Marvel Netflix stuff, and I was sassy for him, and I was like, it's crazy how it worked so well that now they're just, going to make that what Disney Plus is going to be like. It was, he didn't have to say it. I was like, meh.
Were you able to avoid any of the controversy, like the racial shit?
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, if anything, it's a Florida audience. They would enjoy the other side of it. But no, I definitely.
They're like, thank God there was so many white people on that show.
The Finn Jones Iron Fist really was a highlight for me. But yeah, no, we basically kept it to like a 10-minute on each mega section of their lives for the hour panel. So no real time for that. But yeah, it was nuts, man. Like I had, again, one of the better cons I've ever had. And I don't know if you've ever met Alan Tudyk, but he's one of us, dude.
I worked with him on something very briefly, and I wouldn't use the term met. You know what I mean? Like, okay. Yeah.
We're around his crazy energy of delight.
Yeah, no, he is talk about like the center of a universe in whichever
it's insane.
Whichever room he's in. Yeah.
He brought a bag, and I thought it's because he was flying out. And then I halfway through the panel was like, all right, guys, I'm going to be signing stuff from this bag. Some of it's good, most of it's crap. And so while fans are asking questions, he would be signing like his own toothbrush from the hotel.
Love it.
He stole a coffee carafe from the hotel, signed it, and it still had coffee in it. And he gave out cups and then the carafe. Perfect. Like, he is a mad genius. Yeah, and we had so much fun because that was also a yes and panel.
I mean, he's been doing this for so long. And especially, did you watch that show?
I watched the first 3 episodes.
You got to watch the rest of it. You can watch the whole thing.
Well, now that I've become it,
but like, you can watch the whole thing in like an hour because they're only like they're so it's so insane and so ridiculous. And Leslie, what's his name? The gentleman who passed away, the Southern guy.
I'm
struggling to remember his name right now. But anyways, he's fantastic. Everybody's fantastic in it. But yeah, like. That's not, I guarantee you that behavior is for him more than it is for anybody else.
Oh, he needs the outlet. He's just having a good time. And I finally got to ask him about A Knight's Tale because, like at cons, it's usually about Firefly and his nerdy stuff. We talked at length about Clayface, by the way, and he wouldn't answer as anything but Clayface. And
Great! Yeah, that's fantastic.
Dude,
that voice
when I was
so
like
good.
trying to be, not even serious, when I was trying to get through his sentence and he would like grab me by the shoulders and shake me as Clayface, it was so hard to be like, I'm a professional. Like he's just so much, and it was somehow not like, sometimes when someone does a voice as an answer, it's like, we get it, you're talented. Or like, we get it, like it's funny. He was just so earnest. Like it was like you said, like it was for him. And I was like, I can't be mad at someone just loving their life this much.
Right.
It was one of my favorite panels I've ever done. But the Stranger Things panel was insane because they couldn't talk about anything. So we just talked about like 80s nostalgia and what we think today is going to be nostalgic for. Like, so trying to find out what Gen Z thinks is important today was just a fun, like, archaeological study, like, of what very famous young people are. So every panel, and trying to wrap it up at the con, but like every panel was so different than itself, but also none of those things could ever occur at San Diego. So it was singular to the location, but also singular to each other. And the Tom Hiddleston panel is probably singular to my career because I finally got to have the James Lipton talk that I want to do a talk show about at the length I want to do a talk show about with someone that means so much to me because for my money, Loki season 2 is the best thing Marvel's done. Like the last hour of Loki season 2,
it's what
I would put up against anything.
Yeah, it's the reason why we're into this shit.
Yeah, exactly. And I got to tell the man himself, but then not have that be the only like, hey, I loved it. Like, that's usually what you get. And instead, I got to be like, this is what it means to me as an art form, and this is what the medium means to me. What do you think about this choice? And we had a real talk. And then backstage, we had another 20 minutes of talking about art and the emotional connection that changes an actor once they played a character that long, and how insane it is to be able to look at footage from 15 years ago and use that in your new work and know that that'll affect you in the future. Like, we talked about poetry more than like acting, and that was so special. So yeah, that panel, like a few people filmed, so that one's online, and rewatching pieces of it, I was like, oh, this did go as good as it felt, because it doesn't always.
Sure. It wasn't.
Sometimes you're just looking at his eyes. You're like, this is going great.
I love the idea that you're like, oh man, it was this great, beautiful, deep conversation, and then you watch footage back, and it's just like the Chris Farley show. It's just you being like, remember when Hulk smashed you, and we all laughed. What was that like?
I love when you twirl your daggers. Do you at home twirl daggers?
What was
do you
that
know
like?
daggers?
Yeah.
Do you like Spider-Man more or Batman?
God, now I wish that was the actual reality.
Yeah, like I'm like having this moment of pure bliss of like, I'm good at this. And then I look at it, I'm like, cheeseburger. But yeah, Megacon might be my favorite con that I've done. And
yeah, I miss it. It was always such a fun community. It was also like a really easy breezy con, at least used to be.
Well, if I'm there next year, you should come, man.
Maybe it's not
special.
Maybe it's not any different, but.
It next year we're doing it February 9th, so come on down.
Listen, we should use all your contacts. Let's do a live Koicast with the guest.
I saw more Koicast shirts there, by the way. than at WonderCon when we had a panel. Like there were so many Koicast shirts, and it was so special. Like it felt like, yeah. Thank you, folks.
Well, before we move on, we have hotline calls to get to, but before we move on to the hotline calls, it is Monday morning, the 12th. Yesterday, they released.
There was a bowl.
They released a trailer for a much anticipated Marvel movie. Do you want to talk about that before we move
I would love to, but I want to hear your thoughts first because I'm sure the people have heard mine.
I mean, my thoughts are that I am very, very excited for it. I think that it is best case scenario for what is unfortunately now a tired premise. Like, I think with the cold close of the Marvels and with Spider-Man and with all of these kind of like, crisscross applesauce with the fucking god-awful Doctor Strange 2 with, what I mean? Like, the reality is like, it's actually not that big of a deal because we've now seen it 3 times. We've seen the Fox universe or however many 2 times, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So it doesn't feel as special, but I think because it's this team specifically, Ryan Reynolds, no, not Levy. Who's the director? What's his name? I just blanked on his name. It is Levy. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, Reynolds, Levy, and now Jackman, who I'm sure is a big part of it, as far as like, the driving force.
I mean, the title.
Yeah, I mean, it's best case scenario, and the trailer looks fantastic. I love that we didn't really get a ton, that it was mostly just action, which I was like, good, yeah, these are very fun action movies. I enjoyed the setup. By the way, we're obviously talking trailers for a spoiler for a trailer, and despite the fact that I'm team no trailer, I care a little bit less about this than I did, like, end of Infinity Saga, so I don't really care as much. But bringing the TVA, like starting it with just the TVA showing up and being being like, oh, great, fantastic, like that. This is how we do it. We've already introduced the method, and having him, essentially come in, and from what this is my guess. Is the TVA is going to explain to us that essentially the 20th Century Fox is all very, like, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Like that's all of that shit wasn't supposed to happen. It's not supposed to happen that way. And it seems to me like the TVA is hiring Deadpool as sort of a TVA agent assassin. A mercenary, if you will,
to kill the Fox universe.
To kill the Fox, and the fact that in that one scene, he's clearly laying in front of the 20th Century Fox logo on the ground. I'm very excited. It's again, best case scenario. This team, I think it's gonna be a very fun movie, and I mean the title is great. I'm very glad that that's the title of it.
And dude, to see like not a lot of Wolverine is the way to do it, I think. And to have one of the moments be Patch.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there's Patch in a live action trailer and it looks like not the build of Hugh Jackman, like someone else is going to be a variant to Patch is so funny to me. Yeah. Like the jokes are, I like that the trailer opens doors. It doesn't explain anything.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. That's what I'm telling you. We got nothing. And all of that is speculation on my part.
Right, and I love that because I was so afraid they'd feel like they had to do damage control because of where the MCU is. They'd give us too much.
Oh, they do have to do damage control. It's in the contract.
They do, but in the movie.
We're doing that. Oh, yeah. Like, we're doing damage. I think that's going to be like
that's phase 6, obviously.
We
got to
get
Netflix,
there. Hulu. I don't know. We're going to mix it up.
But I love that Deadpool is so under Ryan's control that it feels like they're getting his version of even the trailer.
I agree.
And like when they released the trailer, the first YouTube page that got it wasn't Disney. It was Ryan's page. And I was like, that's power. When your maximum effort promotion has in the contract that one, you're not going to air it at D23. It's going to be the next week on your terms.
Right.
But then when the trailer comes out during the Super Bowl, it's going to drop on your YouTube page. Like that's a guy that's running his property, not the mouse running him.
And it does feel like it's all contained well, with the exception. Yeah. And I will say this, I just like, this is what I hate about the hype culture. I do wish, okay, think about this. Put yourself in this alternate reality. Speaking of different timelines, imagine seeing that trailer and up until this point, seeing no shots of them on set that we've seen for the past year.
And that's how hundreds of thousands of people that aren't so plugged into the internet got to experience it.
I don't think so. I think you can't avoid those shots. Like
I think people aren't like I think we're deeply Twitter and Instagram, and I think because I know a lot of people when I was reading like trending like Deadpool 3, like, oh my God, Wolverine's in this. Like it worked for them.
Really? Oh, okay. Well, I wish that we lived in those people's minds.
Same. I'm so jealous. Like because it would have been in Florida. I was like, this is nice.
That moment at the end with the shadow is such a fun shot, and that we would have went apeshit had that.
Yeah, 5 years ago and like less internet ago, what a moment that would have been mind altering.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
But, and I'm jealous for the dozens of people that.
When does it come out?
July.
Gotcha. I wish it was.
So we got like 5 months.
I wish it was this month. I wish it was this week. I wish it was.
I wish it was right now.
I wish it was. Oh, it's Valentine's Day today.
Oh hey, wait, isn't that Wednesday?
Yeah, that's when the show comes out.
Oh yeah. Happy Valentine's Day, you
doesn't
lovelies.
Even know when his own fucking program comes out, ladies and gentlemen.
Guys, I'm tired, and I love you very much. Happy Valentine's Day from your Wolverine to your Deadpool, and from your Deadpool to your Wolverine. Enjoy some pegging on us.
Did you see the second that the trailer came out? Did you see Hugh Jackman's Twitter?
Where Wolverine and asshole.
He wrote fixed it, and then he changed it. I mean, like, and the fact that they had that in the pocket, and they're playing this. Very, very fun. They're playing it really well. I'm excited. I'm so excited. I also love that it opened so like warm and fuzzy. Like clearly he found a timeline where everyone loves him. I love that all the Deadpool cast was just like happy to see him. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a romp. Like this movie is going to be so fun to just journey through with Deadpool. Yeah, I'm stoked. I can't wait. July can't come soon enough. Obviously, time moves too fast, so I'm going to wait. But in general, very stoked. I thought the Twisters trailer was fun. I'm really excited for the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. A lot of really good stuff. I didn't see any of that.
Well, it's out there.
Twisters,
if you so choose.
A sequel to Twister?
Goddamn right it is.
Is it original cast?
Well, no, it's like one of them's like the son of. It's literally like a son of Twister.
All right. I'm less interested.
Glenn Powell's in it.
Give me Helen Hunter. Give me death.
Glenn Powell and what's his name? Pre-Superman.
I'm Glenned out.
Oh,
everybody go watch Red Wing, available on all streaming services.
Much like Twisters. But yeah, let's get to some hotline calls. Let's hear from our Wolverines.
You want to get some hotline calls? What's the number to that hotline calls?
818-694-0722. Is that right?
Alrighty, let's take our first hotline call.
Producer Drake, hey. Coy. There's a huge difference between 7 and 6. Just saying that anyone who wants to go back and whatever, it's fine. I wanted to ask you all a question that I was kind of scrolling through TikTok. Like, we know what makes Batman Batman. We know what makes Superman Superman. What makes, in your opinion, Wonder Woman Wonder Woman? Because to some, she's this olive branch trying to bring peace to the man's world, Other times she's a warrior. And it's a good question. It's an interesting thought project, so I figured I'd ask you that. And then everyone knows 818-794-0722. Not like last time where it was 6, which is fine. Didn't scare the crap out of me at all. Twice. But yeah, no grudges. Love y'all. Bye.
Okay, Travis from Florida. It sounded like a few things here. One, yes, the phone number to the hotline is 818-794-0722.
Yeah.
For a few episodes, you have been saying 818-794-0622, which is not incorrect. The number. And just before I asked you what the number was, you said 818-694-0722. There are no 6s in the phone number. And I just want to let everybody know that when we went remote, like 4 months ago now, where we've been remote for however long it's been, I told Coy, just write down a little cheat sheet. Listen, he's all like, oh, I was on stage with all these people, and it's like I'm part of the family, and it's like I'm cast members, and I'm such a pro. Pros keep notes on them when they host shows, okay? Simply write the number down and you'll never get it wrong. In the Discord, Travis was like, I kept calling and somebody kept answering the phone. And I think that's what he was referring to about scaring him. I don't know. I think that's what he meant.
Man, that's good. That's someone's phone number.
Once again, the number 818-794-0722. And if you're ever curious, it's in every single episode of the podcast art, as well as on the website at coycast.com. So
that's helpful.
On to the question at hand.
Wonder Woman question.
What makes a woman wonder? Yeah, I feel like it's a good question because you get like Batman, he's the Dark Knight. He is vengeance. He is, he's the
vengeance. He's the knight. He's Batman.
Yeah. Superman, truth, justice, and the American way. Right? Like you could definitely do this with characters, but Wonder Woman is a tougher character.
I do think for me it is the last thing he said, which is the olive branch until you need a sword. Like I've always seen her as a true warrior. I don't think a real warrior fights first. I think a real warrior knows when not to fight. And I think that like if you look at martial arts, it's usually about someone steadying their mind, not about learning how to hurt someone. So to me, Wonder Woman represents that, where it's a steady mind that does have the ability to whoop ass.
See, I actually kind of put her, and maybe this is just because I have been infected by Supreme Squadron.
Oh, okay. They're going to say the Snyder version.
No. Or whatever that version of the Marvel Max JLA is, where I love the presentation of the Wonder Woman, archetype being like, I'm a god. I'm a literal god amongst these peons. And because of that, I actually feel like real Wonder Woman, actual DC legit Wonder Woman, is kind of the bridge between Superman and Batman. Like
I don't think those two ideas are mutually exclusive.
I know
what I'm saying and what you're saying. That's your definition.
But I'm saying like in a way where it's like she's far more, she is grittier than Superman as far as the way she views the world, but she also understands the true power that comes with not being a human being. You know what I mean? Like, which is something that Superman has. Superman like understands that like it's about the choice. It's, like I am going to choose to do the right thing with what I have. But I don't know. It's interesting. I think that it's one of my favorite things about the character, but one of the most silly, hard to swallow things as the character has been written through the years is the lasso of truth. The lasso of truth is like the corniest, silliest thing, but I also feel like it's perfect for that character.
She's so wonderfully naive in a way that's childlike, not childish, and I think the lasso is the same,
But I think that's like, that to me, when I think of Wonder Woman, that's what I think of. I think of the lasso. Like, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I'm like, that's what it's about. It's about reality. Like, what is the reality of our situation? What is the truth of our situation?
She has an invisible jet. Like, her stuff's all weird. It's, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, she's a character from a bygone era that we didn't update that much.
That's the DC, and that's kind of a DC problem in general, with the exception of Bats. Yeah. But,
Batman was written to be a detective then, and now they call their whole ass company Detective Comics because of it. Like, they got really lucky that Batman was as timeless as he is, versus a lot of the characters where it's like, okay, you fight a cheetah woman in your invisible jet and your lasso of truth, is it? Right. Okay. Like, that sounds like someone that's mentally ill. Like, that's, and Batman actually is mentally ill, which is why he's such a good character.
There we go. All right. Let's see what else we have on our hotline. Once again, that's 818-794-0722.
722.
Hi guys, this is Doug from Central New York, Duger13 in the Discord. I was hoping that you two loyal mutant lovers could tap into your expertise, see what I did there, and give me some X-Men advice. I grew up thinking the X-Men were cool and was at a great age to love the 90s animated series, but never really followed them in the comics. Now, fast forward about 30 years, and I'm just starting to read some X collections. I was hoping that you both could share some of your favorite runs with us so that I could check them out. Oof. I've recently read the New X-Men Compendium by Grant Morrison, which I really enjoyed, And I loved Coy's Deadpool and Wolverine theory that we are seeing the back of Cassandra Nova in the trailer.
Yes, sir.
I also read the first compendium of The Ultimate X-Men, which I thought was pretty good, but probably wasn't my favorite depiction of those characters. What runs would you two encourage me to pick up next? I'd love to hear what some of your favorites are, as well as just maybe a general reminder on how your own fandom and following of the X-Men got started. As always, thanks for sharing your time, opinions, and thoughts with us, and stay sweaty. Bye.
Duger13 asking some X questions.
So it's a hard one because of the volume of X-Men I love.
I know, there's so much.
So you have so far read some of the greats. New X-Men is one of my favorite runs. I also think the first few arcs of Astonishing X-Men are really approachable. The tricky thing with X-Men is it's a really long soap.
Is Astonishing
Joss Whedon
one? Okay, I was just looking it up because I always confuse Uncanny and Astonishing. Yes, I was going to suggest
Uncanny's the one that's run since '63. Astonishing is new.
I was going to suggest Astonishing. That I think is such a great, easy, digestible, and it's a great representation of the characters. That I think is top tier for me for more modern stuff.
I'd say Astonishing is the equivalent of Ultimate Spider-Man for the X-Men for me, because now, I like Ultimate X-Men, but I think Astonishing is a little bit more about them.
I will say, if you read the first the volume, whatever trade, for Ultimate, I love Ultimate X-Men, but I admit that it is a slow start. But once Ultimate X-Men gets maybe 2 or 3 volumes in, I don't know, whatever that is, 14,
it
16,
doesn't let off the gas.
It's really, really good. And I mean, it's exceptionally good. Once the focus really turns to Charles, turns to what occurs with Magneto, I think there is some of the best X-Men writing in that book. It's just slow going to start. It's a little I think because I reread that not that long ago, at least the first part of it, and I remember just feeling man, we just they just came out swinging in a way that was very of the era. Because when did that start? 2002,
2001 or 2, yeah.
Yeah, it was very we're here. We've got cell phones. You know what I mean? It was just very...
Look at our trench coats.
Yeah, it was very of the era, and I think that it took a little while to find its footing, but once it did, it's exceptional.
I would also argue the X-Men are inherently about inner turmoil, drama, and soap opera elements, so it's hard to just start. I think you need to build up the characters for a couple volumes before they can get to what makes the X-Men great, which is that inner conflict, and if you don't care about them, you can't have conflict. So I would say, that's why I would say the Astonishing X-Men run is a little bit more like what Ultimate Spider-Man was, which is immediately approachable. And then Ultimate X-Men is great once you're in it. I also think the new X-Men run, like you had already said, is exceptional. Check out God Loves, Man Kills. In the current climate of cults and propaganda and hate, I think it's a really topical run. I think what we're going to see from the X-Men movie MCU element is going to be that kind of vein. X2 borrowed heavily from it, basically politicizing mutation and bigotry, which is what the X-Men are about. It's a commentary on a lot of different types of bigotry and hate. So I would check that out for that run. And then I'd say finally, I want to give one more off the wall. You know, a really fun run. Oh, sorry, good.
I was just going to say what I suggest doing is that if you really dig the X-Men, finding a character that calls to you and find out if they have a solo book. Because almost every solo X-Men book is good. Maybe not great, but is good. There was a Nightcrawler series.
A lot are great, most are good.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? There was a Nightcrawler series that I absolutely loved.
Frank Miller Wolverine's an all-timer.
Frank Miller, yeah. There's a Gambit series that's decent. I think that's one of the things I love about X-Men too, is that it's and obviously in every story you get a little piece of everybody else, and yeah.
If you're a 90s kid, my last track is going to be for a weird one, Generation X fucking slaps. It's so weird and it's so 90s. It's much more of that. It's the team that Emma Frost and Banshee lead.
Okay. Yeah.
The Chris Pacello art, it's really high energy. It also feels very much like that 90s animated series you mentioned in that. It's more like that Jubilee go to the mall feel, but with a different team. So if you like 90s X-Men, that might be your fun spinoff book.
Yeah.
Great question.
Great question. Good reads.
Whoa. Hey, man. Wait a minute. A minute. What? So here's the thing, Coy. You changed, brother. You're not the same anymore. I'm watching, I'm listening to the pod right now. And I smashed the pause button on that shit. Because you were saying, within your leather box, you're watching animation? What's up with that? I mean, since when, bro? You held that flag for so long that you could not get into animated movies, animated whatnot. It was like too childish for you. And now you have like a shit ton of Batman under your belt. I feel like this is a bit of a little favoritism, man. You only take what you want. So what's your reason now not to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, brother? So good, so fancy, so well written. Those two boys hit gems. I can never keep insisting that you watch Avatar, the original one, with the 10-year-old little boy second to Ice Cube. That series, that animated series. I mean, it had a long and lasting impression on me, as you can see or hear. But I think you'd enjoy it, bro. I think you genuinely would like it. There's so much to discover and only 3 seasons. There's 3 seasons to watch. That's like the total of your 17 Batman movies you watch. So in any case, man, have fun. Sorry if there's background noise. I'm in a huge snowstorm right now, but there was no way I was not going to get my comics today. And until then, mon ami, take care, have fun, stay sweaty, and keep it popping. Later, bro.
Stay safe in the snow. Okay, first of all, correction 1, Benoit. I never said it was childish. I always said I had trouble connecting because I didn't find the emotional through line through a lack of human eyes. I struggle with animation as a format, as a medium. I do not consider it a genre because a lot of very good mature themes and adult stuff happens to be animated. I just connect to human actors better than I do drawings, and that is how I've always felt. The reason I've watched so many is because I was getting paid to do so for a job. So that said, it did help me understand animation more, but it took sweet cash to get me to cross that golden bridge of gold. But the Real Rejects, basically, like, we decided to commit to like 40 DC animated films, and I watched them all in a year, so I was inundated with it, so it broke down my barriers of connectivity. That being said, those are like a very American-style animation. I still very much struggle with anime. I really don't love sweat beads, characters falling over, big overacted like monologues, lots of cloying, screaming emotion. It's a style. It's not, I don't have anything against it for other people, but when a character falls on their back and starts kicking and crying or starts like, I'm out. Like, I just can't do that. It's just, I don't find joy in extremes of that nature.
It's shocking you could get through this show because every time we sit down to record and you can't like fix your goddamn mic stand, I jump on my ground, show on my back, throw my feet up in the air, and I go, I can't fucking
stand it. And then he has a single sweat bead curl down his cheek.
Can't figure anything out. And then I scream and I go, Coy!
And then he charges
and then,
up
like,
for
a bunch
a long
of lights.
time. Yeah,
a bunch of lights shine behind me.
The reason we don't do a video version of this podcast is because he opens Super Saiyan every episode, and frankly, that's his own secret.
I like that Benoit didn't even bring me up.
Yep, he's like, it's a lost effort.
Can I tell you the amount? This is how you know that while I'm a generally positive, like, who cares, love what you love person, inside of me, inside of us, there are 2 wolves, right? And in this instance, the true heel inside of me goes like, the more people that ask us to watch Avatar are concreting the fact that I will purposely never watch it out of spite. Now and by the way, I know there's people out there who love it. Looking at you, Robin West Parker. I'm literally going to avoid that show forever out of spite. I might not even watch the live action one, which looked kind of good to me. Now, just because you're calling up Benoit and asking us to watch it.
It's also like the anime thing. I was able to survive a lot of My Hero Academia because it's like a Western love letter. Like it's an anime that's a love letter to Western comic books. So
I hear that about Bebop as well.
So those
Cowboy
things are
Bebop.
interesting to me because it's like, oh, I'd love to see the art I love from another perspective, and therefore I can endure some of the tropes that is of that medium. But just anime doesn't really call to me, even still. But I am trying to like more animation.
It's one of those things where I feel like it's a little bit easier with just fucking Marvel and DC characters that we've
already
been
know
reading
them and love
forever.
them.
Like, let's stop beating around the bush. That's what it comes down to. We're not deep people, okay? Koi could tout how deep he is and how deep his conversations are with celebrities.
I'm not saying I always am.
But we're very dumb people. And we see Batman and go, oh, we like Batman. He Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, you did say 17 Batmans. I was like, it's Batman.
And it's just an easier pill to swallow. It is more Americanized. There's some I loved the concept and premise of Full Metal Alchemist, right? When I learned what the show was, and I had friends, who were like in the community, people who worked on all blah blah blah, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna give this a shot. And I watched it and I enjoyed it, but I never needed to see the next episode. Does that make sense? Like it sort of happened at me, and I went, okay, this is cool, I like it, but I don't. I think you and I have that same thing where we don't have that driving force.
And I have to with the amount of stuff that I have to watch.
For me, it has nothing to do with animation versus not animation. For me, it just has to do with that style. It does, unfortunately, has to do with anime, what we consider Japanese animation, and whatever you call that. And there was a whole argument on the Discord about Avatar's not really anime and this, and then everybody had their own opinions and stuff. So by the way, if you're not in the Discord, koicast.com, click that Discord link. It's completely free, and it's a fun community where you can talk about all the things you love and yell at all the people who don't like them.
Yeah, no, it's generally positive, though. Yeah, and I saw that argument, and I was like, to me, that's anime, and I just haven't been called to it. And no disrespect whatsoever implied, intended, or whatnot. It's just not my thing. Especially with Mr. and Mrs. Smith just aired, and I'm watching it, and I rarely have time to watch anything for me. And I'm like, I'm gonna watch something that's actually new for me for once, and not do commentary on it. I'm excited to just get time for anything new. Curb Your Enthusiasm. I never got into Curb until this year. My girlfriend loves Curb, and I watched season 11. And I was like, oh wait, this is exceptional. And now there's new Curb airing for the first time for Koi. So it's been nice to have a show that I watch and look forward to week to week. But I need that want to watch more in order to commit that hour a day or whatever.
Right. I agree. All right, let's see. We got one
last call.
All right. Call before we draw our new unpunchable gift horse, who's going to give you more shit to watch for them. Alrighty, let's see.
Hey, Koi. Hey, producer Jake. It's Lewis from Houston, AOPW_figures on Instagram. Just wanted to kind of ask about your thoughts on Iron Claw. Really sucks that it got snubbed completely for the Oscars, but so Jake, I know Jake kind of comes from the wrestling side of things, so I'm sure he's a little more familiar with how the story went. So his watching movie experience must have been different from yours, Koi. But just kind of curious how you interpreted the story, or what it kind of what resonated with you. Me being from Texas and also a wrestling fan, we're pretty familiar with this story. It's very the lore of it. It's just, even though that's in Dallas, everybody in Texas knows about the Von Erich stuff and all that went down. And there was more that they didn't even touch on that was just as bad, and then just keeps going and going. But very curious to hear what your thoughts on the movie were versus somebody who might have been familiar with that story and how it was interpreted in film. Anyways, love you guys. Be safe. Talk to you later. Bye.
Lewis from Houston, AOPW_figures on Instagram.
Oh yeah, I know this guy.
So yeah, we talked ad nauseum. It was one of my favorite conversations we've ever had about Iron Claw. Unfortunately, Koi didn't record his side of the conversation a couple months ago, a couple of weeks back.
It was a great talk.
So people haven't really heard, at least, I mean, on this program. Maybe you've talked about it elsewhere, but yes, it got snubbed for the fake awards that don't mean anything other than advertising, and it should have won. It should be nominated for one of those fake awards. Especially,
I would argue like 3 of those fake awards,
especially the direction. If you're gonna, I think that screenplay deserved. I mean, the screenplay was outstanding considering what.
Dude, for me, it's like Efron and Holt, as lead and supporting. They were so.
And then those two deserve some credit for their work, other than the paychecks and the accolades. But, yeah. What I mean, like, what did you get out of it? What was your big takeaway? Obviously, you don't have to dive into the whole shebang. But
in brief, I did not know anything. I had heard the name Von Erich, but it was like in the conversation of great wrestlers, not in any sort of detail. I knew that there was a real person. I knew that they were iconic to Texas, and I knew that they were a family. That's kind of the extent of my knowledge. I knew there was a darkness, but I had no idea the extent of it. I didn't know about the suicides. I didn't know about the trauma. I didn't know the leg thing. So it was really, really beautifully told in that I got to experience a true story anew that is so important to so many people. And I felt the genuine drive of the film that successfully got me to care. Like, this movie is heart-wrenching and painful and beautiful at the same time. The movie ends in such an uplifting, human, positive way, in a darkness. Life can be really hard and dark, and I think this movie always manages to find a darker corner to fall into, and then like there's a silver lining in Zac Efron's performance at all times. His performance is so incredible because he gets through that impossible.
It's a survivor story. Like,
and there's no version of that script that isn't like the fact they had to make it less dark and it's still that traumatic. The fact that they had to cut an entire death.
Oh,
and the fact that
within the time frame, not to mention all the others prior and after, but yes.
And the fact that Zac Efron's character is still okay enough, and the fact that there is that last line, like, I used to be a brother, is a line that I'll think of forever. Like, that's a line of dialogue I will always have.
It's one of the greatest closing couplets of all movies, I think. Like, as far as like them and then the kids' dialogue, like that couplet there is one of the most beautiful ways that I've ever seen a movie ended, because and I think we talked about that on the show, is because like it literally broke the character arc right up until literally the last moment of the movie.
Yeah.
In a way that movies just don't do. Generally, that's the point where we're already on our downswing of our resolution and we already have all of our warm and fuzzies and we're just getting ready for the credits to roll. And they're like, no, we still have work to do. There's a couplet of lines left. That's the sort of thing that as a writer is so hard to not put earlier in your movie so that your viewers can revel in it. Because you want it, when you write a really good line, I'm in the middle of fucking writing something right now and I have this this little piece of wisdom that I love so much, that I'm so happy about. And it's so hard for me because I'm drawing such a giant circle around it, right? The restraint needed to make that the final 2 lines of a movie, that's an incredible amount of restraint. It's incredible direction, incredible writing. Yeah, movie's fucking fantastic.
And then we just sat in the credits because of it.
Yeah.
Like, the credits became important because we didn't get to revel. We had to suffer. And I also, to your point about like wrestling, I am not that versed in wrestling. And it was also, on top of an incredible story, helped me understand that culture a lot better.
Especially of the era,
Yeah, well, Zac Efron's line about the promotion is real.
Right.
The story elements, are modified, and there's certain elements of like, falseness, but I do love that the better you are at your job, that is real. And I never thought of it that way. And there's like a paragraph explanation of wrestling that I was like, oh, you just did in 30 seconds what many of my friends have tried to explain in 30 years.
And like, there's a reason why when there is a champion in wrestling that wrestling fans don't like, not because he's a heel and we boo him, but because we don't think he or she deserves to be champion. There's a reason why there's that real world passion that bleeds into this fiction. And that is a really great explanation of it.
And I also, last bit on Iron Claw, I also really like that I've always had respect for wrestling, even if it wasn't for me. Just like I was talking about the animation, like I've always had respect for it. But this deepened my respect for individuals in it. Like before it was like I respect fans because I love fandom. I respect wrestlers because of the physicality. I respect storytelling. Like I had a more abstract, right? This humanized individuals that I had no reason to connect to beforehand. Like, I can respect The Rock because I have respect for the man that is Dwayne Johnson. I didn't know the Von Erichs, so it was especially impressive to give me people from before my time that enhanced wrestling and wrestlers for me. So I really adored it. It made my top, I think top 10, top 20 of the year. It made my top list of the year. And I was passionately in awe of how much it traumatized me. And then that had somehow found a silver lining. It's really beautiful filmmaking.
Yeah. Well, thanks to everybody who called. Coy, once again, what's that number?
818-794-0722. That's 818-794-0722. You can also reach us at contact@coycast.com. You can find us on social media at Coyjandro and at Jake Lloyd Bacon.
You're not wrapping up the show right now.
Well, we got a gift horse to do.
Yeah. Well, you're getting. I was just asking for the hotline number. That's all.
Oh, I just got carried away. I was proving that I know it all.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Dumb.
Let's do a little horse.
We all know you don't.
We all know that's not true.
All right, so it is the first episode in February, so it is time to pick our unpunchable gift horse of the month. If you're not sure what this is, we got to head on over to patreon.com/Coycast. All gift horse patrons over at patreon.com/Coycast are entered into this list. It's a randomized raffle, so to speak. Each and every month, we use wheelofnames.com. We enter in all the eligible patrons. We spin it. Winner gets an item of their choosing from the shop over at dragonwagonshop.com. You also get your name and lights in the Discord, and you get to pick something for Coy and I to watch and discuss over on the patron-only podcast. We got quite a lot of those that we're working our way through. We have a little backlog of lots of fun stuff to watch, so we'll be doing a lot of that stuff in the weeks to come. Without further ado, Coy, you want to get this wheel spun?
Let's see who we're not punching.
So the unpunchable gift horse for the month of February, our Valentine for the month, recently upgraded Darth Vadad. Doug, a.k.a. Darth Vadad. Congrats on being the unpunchable gift horse of the month for February. I'm excited. I always love Darth's picks. Darth always picks like real unique, fun stuff for us to watch. I'm excited to see what he's got. And Darth Vadad, I hope that your upgrades, your recent implants and cybernetics are continuing to work. He, for those not in the know, Darth has Parkinson's and has recently had a procedure done where he has essentially, wires connected to his brain that stimulate his brain. And he did mention in the Discord that he can do things that he wasn't able to do previously. He's able to kind of return to some of his favorite activities. So cool. And it's so fucking great to hear. So congrats again, Darth. Thank you for your continued support of the show. Thanks to everyone who supports us. Whether you're a gift horse or not, please consider heading on over to patreon.com/Coycast, throwing us a couple bucks a month. There are tiers as low as $5 a month that will get you shout outs, that will get your name on the website. Access to the patron only pod is up there each and every week when Coy is available and knows how to hit record on a device.
Very important.
And lots of great stuff over at the Patreon. So please consider becoming a patron. It's the best way to support the show. And quite frankly, help me tolerate putting up with Coy.
It helps. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's a bartering system, the Patreon for tolerance. That said, on the way out, I do want to also give some love to, we mentioned at the top, Robin West Parker. I was supposed to see Robin on Thursday, and I was busy dying. So, Robin, I'm so sorry. Also, in the realm of, in this case, this time, dying. AJ Lancaster, friend of the show, back in the day during lockdown, one of my Patreon tiers was watching stuff that patrons recommended. That was my version of the Unpunchable Gift Horse. And I watched a movie called The Congress in honor of AJ. And because of this con, I actually got to talk to the real life Robin Wright about The Congress. And it was really cool because backstage we didn't get to talk about anything but at Princess Bride because it was a Bride panel. But The Congress is this really cool, very Darth Vadad movie, very existential, weird, talking about like not knowing reality, which is very much my jam. And we got to talk about how much the Congress is getting more and more true. And I just wanted to give some love to AJ because that was a really special conversation I wouldn't have been able to have with Robin Wright without it. So thank you much, AJ. Yeah, so your recommendations come into so many facets of our life, so we very much appreciate all of them. That is going to do it for this week's episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Back to our regularly scheduled every 2-week programming. Thank you all so much for your patience last week when I was dying, and we'll be back on Friday for you patrons. We have moved our Patreon over to Friday, where we're going to dive into the art we have been enjoying or disenjoying, which is a word. That is 818-794-0722 for the contact phone number and contact@koicast.com to contact us via the interwebs. You can also find us on social media at Koijandro and at Jake Lloyd Bacon. That is going to do it for this week's Koicast. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you, as always, to Comic Books for existing. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
If you're enjoying this podcast or any podcasts on the Dragon Wagon Radio Network, be sure to check out the Dragon Wagon shop. You can tout your podcast pride while supporting your favorite indie podcast network. Make sure to check it often for new items and limited time designs. So shop now at dragonwagonshop.com. Get your dragon swag on.
Dragon Wagon.